and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're back in live format tonight. Why? Because it's Friday night, and it's been a bit of a hectic couple of days, a very exhausting couple of days for myself. I've been busy. I've been doing things. There was no video yesterday. We're back here today. I was going to do it in video format. I booked myself for a lovely Indians tonight. I'm off to the Delhi Darbar for some scran after this. So I thought, you know what, we'll go live. We'll go live and we'll just have a gab about what's been a kind of quiet January window so far. I was actually hoping that by this point we would be throwing out videos left, right and centre. But it's not quite been like that. And I didn't expect it to be like that. And I'm certainly not complaining. I think that Celtic have to be smart surrounding their transfer business rather than just signing any Tom, Dick and Harry. And, you know, we've got to go about our business in a much more strategic and intelligent manner than what we maybe have in the previous few windows. So I'm not all that bothered. But, you know, on that front, I was maybe thinking to myself that the last few days would have been a lot more to talk about. But there's not really been. It's been quiet. It's never a bad thing, that. We don't need to. Not until it's like the 25th of January and it's still quiet. Then we can start to get bothered and then we can start to worry. But until then, we'll go things normal. It's nice to see you. Lovely to see everybody piling in. I see Jason, good morning from the USA. Love that. USA. USA. Nice to see everybody kind of piping in. Hello, Helen. Nice to see you. What's my order? Tonight I'm going to get a chasney. I don't have a go-to order. I'm not a big man. A big man. Not a big man. I'm not a big Indian man. I don't usually go to an Indian restaurant. It's like once in a blue moon. So I don't necessarily have a go-to order, you know, but tonight I'm going to get a chasney and a few other things, you know, some masala chips and some naan and some other pakora or something, you know. I'll dabble, you know. It's that way there's 5 of us gone, so you know you put everything at the table, you just keep going, don't you? But good evening everybody, let's get into things. It's nice to see you. I'm glad that you've joined along. If you're watching live or if you're watching back in video form, make sure to do one thing for me on that road to 50,000 subscribers. Make sure to drop down below, hit like and subscribe, and very, very quickly before we get into discussing the news, the rumours and whatever else is out there, a massive thank you to everybody who has contributed and donated to the cause, the charitable cause that we had going on the podcast and on the channel in the last couple of weeks. We have finally brought the fundraiser to an end, and on that note, we have raised £1,888 for Children's Hospices across Scotland over the past 2 weeks, which is a hell of a lot more money than I thought we would have raised in that short space of time. So if you did donate, or if you shared it, or even just listened to anything that we said about the charity, thank you to everybody for making it such a successful fundraiser. Funnily enough, it just happened to land on 1888, so you know that's almost £1,900 that we've raised for such an important, such a good cause. When it was really off cuff, it was not planned, it just kind of happened. So it's a great start, and I'm really proud of ourselves and proud of the podcast and proud of the subscribers on the channel who have made it possible. And hopefully we'll have another great cause to raise money for at some point through 2024. So thank you very much if you've donated, and hopefully we hear from the charity soon or something if there's any update on anything, you know. So keep updated, and obviously if you want to donate to Chaz and Children's Hospices across Scotland, you can do that through their own means, through their own website and such. You can still do that. You don't need our just giving for it. You can do it however you like. So thank you everybody, and thank you for everybody saying fantastic, well done and all that jazz. Right, let's get into the news, shall we? Because I've got to move myself tonight. I've got to be off by 6:30 so that I don't be late for my table booked in the Delhi Darbar. Celtic's transfer window is off to a slow start. We've not got an awful lot coming through, but shall we start with this one that has been... What did I tell you? I said keep your eye on this. I said about a couple of weeks ago on the channel. I said keep your eye open on what could potentially happen with Scott McKenna. Now, he could be a Celtic player, and if reports are anything to go by, reportedly Celtic are leading the race in getting Scott McKenna. I'll get on to my opinions of the player in a moment, but according to a few outlets down south, I think the Nottingham Post are one of the ones that are leading the way in saying that Celtic are the favourites to sign the player. There is stiff competition from, as you can see in this is Sky Sports I have up here. In the Sky Sports headline, Celtic and Rangers both interested in signing Scott McKenna. As his contract expires at the end of the season, they're desperate to get rid of him now so that they can maybe make some money. Reportedly, and this is the big thing that's been in a lot of the articles, in case you don't know, could move on an initial loan deal and then obviously when his contract expires in the summer, he'll be available in a free transfer, and if whoever signs him wants to sign him on a permanent basis, they'll get the opportunity to evaluate the player and make that decision when it comes to the summer window. A gentleman's agreement sort of thing, you'd imagine. So if Celtic were, for talking sake, to go out and sign him right now on loan until the end of the season, they could say, right, okay, we'll sign you, we'll get you signed up in the summer, we'll get you signed. So he is looking closer. It gets getting closer and closer, these links, by the looks of it. It's something that I really thought just was a little rumour and would amount to nothing, but the more that's coming out about it, the more realistic it's looking. And I've made my opinions clear on Scott McKenna, and I'll probably get back into that in a moment. What I was shocked to see is that he's only 27. I thought he was older than that now. I thought that he was 30 or something. I thought he was a little bit older than 27 years old. He's obviously been frozen out at Nottingham Forest. He was kind of left out the squad for the majority of this season. He's been training away from the main squad as well at Nottingham Forest, him and Joe Worrell. And Nottingham Forest now making it a priority to get him off the books. Now, interestingly enough, Scott McKenna has admitted in the past that he is a Celtic man. Somebody who, his father was a season ticket holder, who went to Celtic games when he was younger, particularly in the Martin O'Neill era. It's no hidden secret that Scott McKenna is a Celtic fan. Does that make me want to sign him any more than I ever did? No, I'm not going to lie. He's not exactly the centre-half that I dreamed of Celtic signing. I've had very strong opinions on Scott McKenna since his last spell in Scotland when he was at Aberdeen, because there was a few times when he was at Aberdeen he was linked with Celtic, and I always said, no, I'm not a fan of him. I think he's a bit of a donkey. I don't think he's Celtic quality. But of course, he's ended up going down south. He's went into the Championship with Nottingham Forest. He has become club captain of Nottingham Forest and seen promotion with them to the Premier League, where he was a starter for the most weeks up until he was frozen out of the squad recently. The reason for him getting frozen out of Forest, I'm not entirely sure. I think they just got to a point where they signed so many players, and it's strange though, because he's the club captain. So you're talking about a centre-half who is the captain of a Premier League side. On paper, that sounds like someone who should be good enough for Celtic. Is it the dream centre-half that I would want to see at the club? No. However, I suppose if you weigh it up and the circumstances considered, it's certainly not. I'm not going to sit here and say it's the worst option. I'm also not going to sit here and say I'm delighted with the thought of signing him, because I'm not. That would be my honest opinion on it. But when you look at the fact that you could be signing him on a free, you could be signing him on a loan signing till the end of the season. He's a Scotland international who's played plenty of games for Scotland now as well. I tell you this right now, he certainly wouldn't be a bad option to have at Celtic. I don't want to see Scott McKenna be a starting centre-half for the next 3 years at Celtic. I don't, if I'm being brutally honest. I don't know what Scott McKenna thinks of the rest of his career. He probably wants to be starting football for the rest of his senior career. He probably wants to be starting for Celtic week in, week out. If he comes up here, he wants to be starting wherever he goes the next step of his career. I don't personally want that. However, what I will say is, if you're signing a guy like Scott McKenna, a Premier League captain, a Scotland international, someone who up until very recently was playing consistently in the best league in the world and doing quite well. Nottingham Forest have done well since they returned to the top flight. They've managed to stay up, and Steve Cooper was getting quite a tune out of them for a bit. He's certainly not a bad option to have at the club. There's no denying that. Look, listen, if McKenna was down and on the bench every week, you'd probably rather him coming on the park than some of the gump we've signed in recent years. But is that where we should be? Is that where we should be aiming to set our sights? Now, this is one of the things, obviously, helps the Scottish quota. That's probably another bonus in why Brendan Rodgers or Celtic might be interested in McKenna, because it ticks a name off of the homegrown quota when it comes to Champions League football. And listen, I'd rather have Scott McKenna filling one of those slots than Mikey Johnston, to be quite honest. But it is a bit of an unambitious sense. So there seems to be a kind of mixed opinion in the chat scene. AR saying, is McKenna no another type of McCarthy type saying? I wouldn't drop to the extent of McCarthy. I think McCarthy is much, much older, a lot more injury problems, was done as a first-team footballer, whereas Scott McKenna is nowhere near that point of his career. I can understand maybe a sort of comparison in the sense that somebody who's played up here and he's a Celtic man and whatever. I can maybe understand that aspect of things, but I wouldn't stretch as far to say that he's a McCarthy type signing. How tall is Scott McKenna? Do you know what? Good question. Let's do a little bit of research. Somebody probably knows in the chat. Somebody's probably like, he's Ryan, he's 6'9". Let's see, Scott McKenna height. Let's see. 1.89 metres, which I am terrible at the conversion. What is that in feet? 2 feet. Which is 6'2". He's 6'2". Yeah, smell the glove, got it. There you go, 6'2", which is a good height, I suppose. So this is, yeah, so people saying, Duffy's CV was better on paper. Shane Duffy's CV was better than Scott McKenna's. I wouldn't even say that's an argument. I would say that was probably fact, to be quite honest. I think that Shane Duffy came in looking a much better player. But handy is probably the word that comes to mind. If he's filling a Scottish space on the quota, if he's coming in to be happy to be like a rotational option, a backup option, if it's a free transfer as well, I certainly think that Celtic could do a lot worse. But the thing is, he's a big donkey. He's not the fastest centre-half in the world. He's a bit slow, a bit lethargic at times. It's hard to shine the positives through all of that when you know there is certainly a lot of negatives there. Celtic and Rangers apparently both interested. There are other clubs in England, I think in the Championship as well, who are interested. He's definitely leaving Nottingham Forest. That is a certain. He will be leaving. Does he come in right now and dislodge Liam Scales or Cameron Carter-Vickers from his place? Nah. Am I a massive fan of the signing altogether? Nah. But it's one that I am very just indifferent to. I'm not going to complain if he comes in. I'm not going to be happy if he comes in either. Literally would just be a kind of blank expression. I just hope that if he does come in, and if he's coming in to be a squad player, it doesn't mean anything else for the rest of our signings in terms of where we are lining our ambition up and what the standard of signings are going to be. The thing is, in January, it's just a lot harder to sign players. We need to shop in certain markets, some niche markets, and it's not easy to bring in maybe the quality that you want. I'd imagine Brendan Rodgers probably wants a much better centre-half than Scott McKenna. But can he get that better player than Scott McKenna in this January window? Probably not. So, listen, there's not even a guarantee. If Scott McKenna comes in on loan, right, Would you be happy with that? This is the question I pose. If he comes in on loan until the end of the season, and then we don't sign him, and then we sign a better centre-half in the summer, would you be okay with that? Would you be fine with Scott McKenna being an option at Celtic for 6 months? Because if it's an initial loan deal like it's been reported, there isn't a guarantee he's going to sign permanently at the end of the day. There's not a guarantee he's going to sign on a further contract. So would you be happy with that if he was just an option? He's got to be better than Nat Phillips. That's the first thing I'll say. Like, he's got to be better than Nat Phillips. No two ways about it. But aye, it's one that's definitely going to split opinion. I mean, I'm looking at the chat and there's a lot of people like, so we've got Martin saying he's a really good player and Cameron Carter-Vickers could be off in the summer. Seems to be something in this why we sign extra centre halves. So Martin's a fan. We've got Strange Love the Doctor saying nope, just simply nope. We have 5 capable centre halves, so no. That's the other thing we've got a lot of centre halves. That's something I've not even spoke about or covered in this live stream, is the fact that we do have a lot of centre-halves. We've got Cameron Carter-Vickers, we've got Liam Scales, we've got Mike Nawrocki, we've got Gustav Lagerbielke. They're 4 straight away. And you've got Stephen Welsh, who we waiting to hear more about that injury he went off with. But that's 5 centre-halves. And I don't think there's a desperate need for Scott McKenna. Craig McMahon says, it feels like a lazy signing in truth. Lewis says, would take him for the second half of the season. Hackey says he thinks he could be handy. Yeah, so Martin McCluskey says, give him a chance. He would have half a season to show what he can do if he comes in. So, yeah. So Scott McKenna, keep an eye on it. Celtic reportedly leading the way. So that's one of the stories. On the other note, talking about centre-halves, let's just cover this before we get into a Q&A segment of the show. Let's go on to the other story that broke today, and credit to 67 Hail for their article. Yes, that's the right article. Credit to 67 Hail because they had the nicest looking article to aid me on screen here. But Yuki Kobashi looks like he will be leaving alongside Harry Kewell, who we've not even spoke about this in the channel. Harry Kewell has, of course, left Celtic. He's gone. He's away to Yokohama F. Marinos to be the new manager of the Japanese side, the side that Ange Postecoglou formerly worked for. And it looks as though he's taken Yuki Kobayashi with him. It's been reported by the Daily Mail and Stephen McGowan that he's set to reunite with Harry Kewell over there in Japan. I mean, listen, there's not too much to talk about when it comes to Yuki Kobayashi because his Celtic career has been so short-lived. I think he made 6 professional appearances for the club, all of them coming, or 6 senior team appearances, competitive games, And I think all of them came under Ange Postecoglou. Since Brendan Rodgers has came, all he's been involved in is pre-season friendlies at senior level. So he's not got a Celtic career, he's not got a Celtic future, and it looks as though that he is away. Whether or not we're going to make money on that, I'm not entirely sure. I think we spent around maybe the 700, 800k mark on Kobayashi. I need to double check that to be absolutely certain, but I don't imagine we'll be making profit or anything like that. And best of luck to him for going. It's just not worked out for him here at Celtic. It is unfortunate, but listen, we said it when he played. It was that bad for Yuki Kobayashi that he was dropped from centre half for a central defensive midfielder who was about 5'7" or 5'8" in Tomoki Iwata. I don't know if he's that small. That's maybe exaggerating it. Probably about 5'10". He was dropped for a central defensive midfielder. He was that bad. He was never going to be the level for Celtic, but I wish him the best of his career. And hopefully he rejuvenates himself over at Yokohama, and hopefully Harry Kewell has a good time over there as well. Best of luck to him. But one of those signings that has summed up Celtic's recruitment strategy in the past couple of years, not just the last 6 months since we got a new manager, the last couple of years. Very pointless signings being made. Yuki Kobayashi, guys like him, Kwon, Marco Tilio. The reported kind of green lights that Brendan Rodgers has been given on certain signings, and obviously Ange Postecoglou as well, they just don't seem to add up. And we've got to stop making these sort of signings. And we've been linked with a couple of guys already from the K League and the J League and this just before this window opened. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why are we driving back in unless the levels like Kyogo, who was top scorer in the league, and Rio Hatate, who was, one of the best players in the league, and Dyson Maeda, who was top scorer at a point in the league. Unless you're signing players who are genuinely showing the quality and fighting their way into the Japanese or Korean national sides, why are we signing guys that are on loan to second tier teams and all that? No point. But it looks as though Kobayashi is going to be leaving. So best of luck to him. I'm just going to go and double check very quickly what was the actual fee that we paid for Yuki Kobayashi, because I want to see, and I wonder how much we'll get for him, because it surely will not be a lot of money. So let's see, if I go to his career, the reports were that he signed for 600 grand. From Vissel Kobe, we got him from at the time for Celtic, 600 grand, and a year ago today, nearly 1st of January, I think he signed last year. So a very, very just strange time altogether, really. I think that was one of the ones that was announced during the World Cup, actually, and then he arrived on the 1st of January, wasn't it? But disaster of a signing, really. At least it wasn't like bank-breaking money. 600 grand isn't the worst, to say the least. Anyway, that's the two big stories. We're still waiting for updates on Thiago Araujo, Matthias Kvistgaarden as well. Those are the two names that we've heard a lot of. I think that McKenna, Kvistgaarden and Thiago Araujo are looking like the three players who have the most realistic chances of signing for Celtic in this January window. Don't ask me if all three will, because I don't think they will. I don't think we'll get all three of those players. But that's just me going off gut feeling and such at the moment. So it could really go either way when it comes to whether they sign or not. But those are the three players. We're waiting for more updates, and hopefully over the next few days we get that. Of course, there's no football, there's no press conferences, so Brendan Rodgers probably won't comment too much at the minute. There will be the odd story that breaks out here and there in the tabloids and in the media outlets across the social media. We will hear some brief updates, but that's pretty much it for now. It has been a quiet 5 days to open the January window, with just kind of slight rumours bubbling away. So we'll need to wait and see. Right, let's Q&A it then for 10 minutes, shall we? I want to get your questions in. I want to hear your points and things and such. And yes, are we ready for it? Because I just can't stop thinking about the Delhi Derby. I cannot wait for a grub, a nice big Indian grub. Cannot wait. Let's see. The Declan Rice stuff. Listen, he's a turncoat bastard anyway. I didn't want him. No, I would never have wanted him. Switching from Ireland to England. No, but it's nuts, isn't it? The fact that some of these things happen, you're apparently days away from signing a player like Declan Rice. But then you've also got to you've also got to think about, would he have ever became the player that he did playing for West Ham at that level in the Premier League? Would he have got to that level playing at Celtic? Who knows? But it is nuts. And it just shows you, we will never know the inner workings of the transfer market and strategy for what happens behind the scenes at Celtic. We've been close to past to signing some future superstars, and it just never happens. So, aye. Have you seen it? Yes, of course. We've spoke about that a wee bit, Shankland and Miovski stuff. I'm going to try and give it a bye tonight because I feel like I've spoke about it too much. Let's see what else. Get Bernardo signed. Yep, still different rumours around the potential release clause on him, or the optional clause that we could sign him for. Some outlets reporting 1.5 million, some 6 million. Still a long time to decide. There he is. There's the man. He's going to be there. He'll be at the Daily Derby. Garlic or Peshwari naan? That's a good question, Kieran. I must admit, I'm more of a Peshwari man myself. I am. And I know, listen, big respect to the garlic bread. You know, I love a garlic naan. I love garlic bread. But there's something beautiful about a Peshwari. There's just something, it's just rare I get it. Whereas, I get garlic breads all the time. Garlic naans all the time in the house. A good Peshwari. Love it. Absolutely love it. So I'll see you soon, Kieran. Can't wait. God, did you see the players singing to Taylor Swift? Of course I did, and I fucking loved it. Good on them. I'm glad that we've got some Swifties in. Got a lot of questions now. How much do you think Katati's worth now after coming back from injury? Worth? I don't even want to think about how much he's worth. I don't want to sell him anytime soon. He's still, in my head, a 20, 30 million pound player. The injury doesn't change that. We just need him to kick on from here to the end of the season now and get some football and get back to the best football. Seems like everybody's on like the cheese now. Everybody's chipping in now. Plain naan, garlic. I see more garlics. Not a lot of Peshwaris in here. Disappointing. I thought more people would have been on my side with the Peshwari naan. It's quite sad then, really. Mikey Johnson must be a £100 million release clause because we can't seem to get rid. We should be getting 100 million from Kraken player. Have the 4 back-to-back wins taken the heat off the board to spend more than normal this window? I wouldn't say that it has, but I think it will certainly appease more people. Somebody's in my house. I think it will appease more people in the sense that I think that there's more of the Celtic support who won't be as bothered, but it shouldn't lift any pressure off the board, Craig. Absolutely not. And the only thing that I can say about this window is I'm understanding if January doesn't go the way it should, but the summer needs to be huge. The summer needs to be massive, but we need to try and kind of kickstart it here. The meltdowns have been hilarious. I see that Rangers fans are not only moaning about Willie column now, but the columns at Celtic Park. The Pope conspiracies are out in full force. We're still waiting for the penalty to be given. There's your penalty. That's what I'll say. Chicken or veggie pakora? I'm a chicken pakora man. I've only started liking veggie pakora a little bit more recently, actually, so I'm more of a chicken pakora man. I think Powell will be on 6.5 million because I think we would just got him if it was 1.5 million. Yeah, it'll be around 6 million. Yeah, absolutely. I think because if it was 1.5 million, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? You just do it, no matter how he's playing or not. Like, well, that's a ridiculous statement to say, but like, the way he's been playing, you just pay it. Sort of thing. If it was 1.5 million, but it will be above. I'm pretty certain it's up at the 6 million mark. Let's see. What else can we get? Would you get rid of Mark Lawwell? If January's transfer business is abhorrently bad, then yes, I would. Absolutely. And this is the problem at Celtic, because he's part of the Lawwell Mafia family. He's not going to get sacked because of the nepotism that currently exists across all stages of the boardroom. Dermot Desmond and Ross Desmond, Peter Lawwell and Mark Lawwell. There's nepotism at the club. Shouldn't be there. He's not been successful at his job. He's made a couple of good signings, don't get me wrong. He's not been successful at his job. So, for me, I would be getting rid of him, but we'll see how January goes, I suppose. Left back needed, absolutely. Should he get signed this month? No, I wouldn't rush into the signing. We've got plenty of time to do it. Let him keep playing football. Make the signing later on in the season. Is how I would word it. Let's see. We'd get like, yeah, of course we would, but it swings and it just happens both ways, doesn't it? It's always like that. I would love to sign Bernardo this month, but I think we don't rush in, let it happen a little bit longer. Removing Lawwell from the scouting team wouldn't change anything. He's had lots of names in the City group is monitored. He has no choice of the board sign. He wanted Sousa, we got Abelgard. I suppose, yeah, look, listen, once again, just as I've said on numerous times in this stream alone, never mind over the course of months and months on this channel, I will never ever know or understand the inner workings of Celtic Football Club and who's making these final decisions and who's making recommendations and who's all involved in the final decision at the end of the day. We don't know that. It's just, when you just look at the record of players that we are signing, you know, the guy you've got to turn to is the head of recruitment, that being Mark Lawwell. So it hasn't been good enough, but it is what it is. 300 million for Scales' left leg, yes. If you could, what's this? If you could sign 3 players for 30 million, who would you want us to sign? I'll spend it all on Jota, please. Thank you. Bring him back. Do you think that Brendan Rodgers is building an identity at this club, or is the team having just a good spell for mentality and hard work? No, look, identity's coming. It's not, you know, easy to come in and get it done overnight. Listen, it took Ange months to get Celtic proper cooking the way that he wanted them to cook. Granted, he had a lot of injury problems and all the rest of it. But, you know, these things take time, and he wants his own players, and clearly there's players that aren't good enough either. Identity's coming. Just be patient and it'll be there. Right, I'm going to wrap things up there because I better get moving. My table's, I'm due Mandians in 35 minutes. I'm starving. I'm fucking starving. So I'm going to get going. But thank you everybody for tuning in this evening. It is very much appreciated. We'll be back hopefully tomorrow with some sort of video as well on the channel. And during the month of January, there should be a lot of these streams as well. If there's any breaking news, if there's any signings that are made off the hook and we don't know when it's coming. So we will be there. So hail, hail. Thank you. Thank you for all the good wishes and enjoying my scran as well. God bless, like and subscribe. See you next time. Cheerio.